This video will show you how to set up and use Torque Pro with the MGZSEV. The app is set up to work with the BMS versions for the UK, and it works with UK units like miles, mile per hour and miles per kilowatt hour. In this video I'll take you through how to set it up and how to use and what all the gauges mean. Okay, the first thing is to download Torque Pro. That's this app here, and make sure it's the paid version, the Pro version, otherwise it won't work because you can't import extra PIDs, which is what all this is all about. You'll also need access to Android File Manager, which is this, and you'll need to make sure that in settings up here, these three buttons up here, in settings, that you've got show hidden files enabled, otherwise you won't be able to find the folders for Torque Pro. Okay, to find the folders for Torque Pro, go into storage, internal storage, and then the files you're looking for are called .torque, that one, .torque. And in there we're looking at extended PIDs and dashboards, so you need to make sure you've got access to those folders. Okay, the files that we'll need to download are available from this Facebook page, the MG Electric Vehicle Owners Club by James. So this is the front page. Scroll across the front here till you get to the files section, click on the files section, and what you're going to need are instructions, which is what I'm reading right now, the PIDs file, which is this one here. I'll be uploading version 2, version 3, etc. But what we're seeing today is version 1 plus, and the dash settings. So these give you the default dash gauges that I'm showing you today, but you can set up your own based on the PIDs that are in here, and I'll show you how to set up your own. Okay, the first thing you need to do then is, when you've downloaded Torque, you'll probably find that it takes ages to connect to the car. So first of all, you have to connect to Bluetooth, and then it'll connect to the car. So Bluetooth and then the car. But to make it connect even faster to your car, because by default it'll take a couple of minutes to, once it's connected to Bluetooth, to connect to your car. But to make it connect faster, click on your profile, click on the edit button. Okay, once you're in the profile, scroll all the way to the bottom, and then down right at the bottom here you'll see the preferred OBD2 protocol. So that is the one that you want to select from the menus which are available here. Select this one here, the ISO 15765-4 CAN 11-bit 500K board, and then save that. That will then connect to the car much faster. Once you've connected to Bluetooth, that will then connect to the car within about 15 seconds. Okay, next thing you need to do is clean up and delete the old data that's in Torque, assuming you've just downloaded it and never used it on your ZSEV before. So open the app and go to the main screen settings, again bottom left here. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Select manage extra PIDs and sensors. Okay, so these are the PIDs. I'm going to delete them all now. Go to the three dots and clear the list. Clear all the lists. Okay, now you've got no PIDs. It's not going to use any PIDs that are in the file. Then you come out of that screen, go to your real-time information screen here, and then you can delete all any gauges on any screen. You don't need any of them at all, just delete them all. To delete them, just press and hold and delete display on each of them, or on every one of them, and then you can load the dash file, which we'll do in a minute, and then you'll see that all these gauges come up. There are different gauges on different screens. By default, you'll have what this app comes with. Just get rid of them all. Go back to your file manager, storage, internal storage, and down to torque, .torque, don't forget. And in the extended PIDs folder, delete everything in here except for that other file. You don't need anything else in here, just that other file. And then we'll load this file, this MGZSEV file, into there. I'll show you how to do that. Same again for dashboards. Get rid of all the files that are in here, just leave it completely blank, and then we'll load the correct dash settings into here. Now we need to import the PIDs and the dashboard. So earlier on we downloaded from Facebook page onto your phone. You will have downloaded the files and they'll end up in your downloads folder. So internal storage, and you should find your downloads folder. Download, I've got items in there. So in the downloads folder, find the PIDs file that you downloaded. It's called MGZSEV UK PIDs.csv file. Press and hold the file to copy it, and then go back to storage and find the torque folder. Click on extended PIDs and paste the file into there. Do exactly the same with the dash file and paste it into the dashboards folder. So now we're going to set up Torque Pro to use the new PIDs. So go back to the real-time info screen. So back to Torque Pro. This is the real-time info screen. This will all be blank if you've deleted all of those. So click Settings, Layout Settings, and then import the layout. Okay. Now go back to the initial screen, which is this one here. Click Settings in here. Manage extra PIDs and sensors. Go to the three dots at the top and add a predefined set. Scroll down till you find the MGZSEV set and click on that. That will then import all those new PIDs for you to use. So this is all you need to do to set up Torque Pro, ready to connect to the car. So if I come out of that and go back to real-time information, once you're connected to the car, you'll see that that now starts to read all the parameters for the car. Scroll across to the next screen. It'll take a while, but there it goes. It picks up all the PIDs on that screen, and then it'll pick up the PIDs on this screen. There we go. The car currently is in ready mode, and Torque Pro is connected via Bluetooth to the adapter. So once it's all connected and reading correctly, scroll across to this page and you'll see that Torque Pro automatically picks up your BMS software version. Mine's R17, which is the old faulty BMS software, which gives me the 456 volts, but it will pick up your new version as well, which will probably be AL1 or EU1, and that will be with the new BMS software, which this will pick up, and it will use the correct parameters. So it will automatically detect the BMS version and apply the correct formulas and equations in the PIDs for your particular standard. If it doesn't recognize your BMS version, then it will apply the latest standard that it knows of by default. But let me know if it doesn't detect your BMS software version, and I can update the app. Right, let's go back to the SoC display. So the SoC display there, top left, has been corrected for the BMS software version it detected, and will always show 100% when the car is fully charged and balanced and 0 when empty. So unlike other apps that are out there, it won't show 93% at full and 2% at empty. This has been corrected to show 100% when it's full and balanced, and 0 when it's empty, and it should show 25% when the last graticule is displayed on the car. The range display takes into account the remaining SOC, the outside air temperature, the state of health for your battery, and the reference miles per kilowatt hour set for an average 25 degrees C summer day. And by default, I've set that for me at 3.8. And that seems to work really well with the way I drive, etc., etc. But don't forget, that's a 25 degrees C summer day. And that should be a normal day, not the best day you've ever got or the day you hope to get. That should be the reference that you are happy to use. You can adjust that figure, and I'll show you how to do that later. But all the range in here, and this one at 60 mile an hour, depends on that reference data being correct. There are two range displays to choose from, the 60 mile an hour and the 70 mile an hour. The default one is for those who travel at 60 mile an hour, maximum that is, on motorways, and the second is for those who travel normally at 70 mile an hour, maximum on motorways. The app will also show you the overall target miles per kilowatt hour required to achieve that range. So here at today's temperature, that's 3.1, and at 70 mile an hour that would be 2.3, because the drag increases considerably between 60 and 70 mile an hour. Okay, the charge display at the bottom there shows you the rate of charge or discharge in use or during charging on a rapid, obviously with the car in ready mode. Plus is the car charging off to the right, and minus is the car discharging when you're driving, etc. So you can easily see your charging rate without having to calculate it from the car's information. The next screen on the right then shows the tyre pressures in the correct orientation there and at PSI. It also got a charger to charger range display, which shows the maximum miles based on the information that you've put in to plan between rapid chargers, assuming you leave the charger at 85% and you arrive at the next charger with 15%. So using the range values and the SOC and the temperature outside, this is the range you should plan for, maximum range you should plan for between chargers. This screen also shows then the BMS software version, mine being R17 down there in the bottom left. Okay, if you flick across to the other side, you'll then see the balance error screen. This shows the average balance error. So this one here, the balance error, shows the average of all these 9 errors. So an error here would be between the maximum and minimum volts of each cell in that pack. And this is the average of all of these displayed. Now this is the way that MG do it, the way that MG calculate it, and the way that the car's software decides if you need a balance or not, by looking at this average balance error figure. If it's below 100, minus 22 there, millivolts this is, if it's below 100 millivolts, then MG say it's okay. But obviously the lower the figure here, the error, the better it is. If it's approaching 100, then you should do a balance charge, I guess, and then try and keep this as low as you can, below 100. So back on the other screen, this consumption at 60 mile an hour is the display I told you about earlier. Here it's set to 3.8. So this allows you to change the reference consumption for range displays. I've set it to 3.8 by default to reflect the average normal consumption for a 25 degrees C summer day. You can change this to whatever you think is better for you, but 3.8 gives me a pretty accurate range display for my driving style. And that's 60 mile an hour on motorways. I'll try to get it to focus. That's 60 mile an hour on motorways maximum, and A roads just as normal, to be honest. And I've checked that over a 400-mile journey to Wales and back over Easter. So it's taken into account the temperature, which was 10 degrees-ish on the day. And that gave me a pretty accurate range to what I actually achieved. It's certainly much more accurate than the GOM in the car, and changing this value will also change the 70-mile-an-hour value respectively. Don't forget the 70-mile-an-hour value is here, the target and the range. It'll change those as well. So everything depends on setting up this to get it correct for your driving style. To do that, press and hold Display Configuration, Pid Editor, and in here scroll down a bit and I've got the 3.8 in there. Once you've put it in, if you want to change it to 4 or 3.9, wherever you do, just click OK at the bottom there and it'll show your figure, and everything will recalculate automatically based on that 3.8. I'd suggest giving it a try and see if you need to up it or down it, but for me that works really well at 3.8. Okay, to change display properties, if you want to add a new gauge or whatever, press and hold, add a display. All of these are digital displays except for the charging one. Scroll down until you find MGZSEV. Here we go, here they are. And pick and choose the one that you want to display, whether it's battery temperature here, for instance. Select tiny, and there it is. So I'm just going to delete that again, delete a display. There we go. The other thing you need to know when you're putting displays in for here, if you want to change that display configuration, you can change the number of decimal places here, and you'll need to do that for some of the gauges. So by default it uses 1 decimal place. Click there. Put a lot of them I just use 0, otherwise the data is changing much too fast. But set it to what you want, play with it and set it to what you want. Now the PIDs that to use for displays, let me just go into that again. Add display. So the PIDs that you want to use, forget everything else, just go for the MGZSEV. Any of these can be used for display, and they are used in display, but don't use any of the XX ones. These are MGZSEV. They're taken from the car, but these are used for calculations. They're not meant for display. They're interim PIDs, if you like, that are meant to be used in the calculations and for testing. So if you put one of these up in a display, it won't display correctly because it's showing, for instance, it's getting the software value for one particular digit, and then in another display I add them all up to give you that R17 that's in the digit. So they don't actually mean anything, to be quite honest, those XX. Just use the MGZSEV ones in here. Some of the other displays I've got on here are the outside air temperature, my phone, how much battery it's got left, the state of health, the high voltage battery, what's the temperature of the battery. Now you'll notice that when you first start off, that'll be more or less the same as the outside temperature, just change a little bit. But as you're driving, that'll start to go up, and certainly if you rapid charge, that'll almost straight away, within a couple of minutes, that'll be going up to about 25, 27, even 29 degrees. And once you've done your rapid charge, it will hover around the 25 degree mark. It likes to be around 25 degrees, and that's where you'll get your best range and best consumption values at 25. But the application assumes you're using the outside temperature, because when it's colder, they're more likely to have rain, there's more likely to be wind, etc. So it does take into account the outside temperature rather than the false battery temperature. The balance error there is the same that's on the other screen here, so it's just a copy of that display. Battery volts, your 12 volt battery volts, currently 14.1 because my car is on and ready. The range is this display here is exactly the same as that one, just this is a larger display, but it's exactly the same as that one. If you want the 70 mile an hour display, just delete this one and recreate a new one which is exactly the same as that one. I'll show you how to do that now. So delete that display, press and hold, add a display, again digital display, find the PID, MGZSEV, I can't remember what it's called now, range 70 mile an hour, make it small and just drag it up and drop it up there. So you can see here's 52.7. I don't need to know the 0.7 point miles. So go to display configuration, number of decimal places, switch off the default and make it 0. Okay, there we go. It's the same as this one down here, 53. So you can easily, but I've left them here. You can delete these if you want, if you don't want them, but it gives you the target miles per kilowatt to achieve, so you can watch what you're getting in the car and compare it against the target to see if you're on target or not. If you're doing better than that, then great, the range will be better. But I think that's all for now. Hope you get on with it well, and let me know in the comments if you find any errors or you want some new information. Oh, by the way, there's a lot more PIDs that can be displayed, but I've chosen here to keep this simple and just to show stuff that's missing in the car. The stuff that's missing that I want in the car are the SoC and the proper range. I like to see the 12 volt battery as well, and I like to know what sort of charge I'm getting on the charger. Other than that, the rest of the stuff is a bit more in-depth detail, and there are a lot more PIDs which I don't use, like motor speed, motor temperature, miles per hour, how many, what's the trip mileage, etc. But I don't, all of those are already displayed in the car, so you can go quite deep and put a lot more displays on here, but then it gets very confusing. So I've just kept the basic stuff that I want to see on this screen here to keep it simple and something that my wife can understand as well. Okay, I'll leave it there for now, and like I say, let me know in the comments if you what you think and if you want any changes. All right, cheers, bye.